What's up, YouTube? This is Brian, also known as Sherwood Sound, and I'm going to do something a little different today. I do have a list of my top rappers of all time, top 60. I am going to be putting that out in two parts coming up, but I decided to do something a little different today, something a little more topic, a little less talked about. The top underground hip-hop albums every year since the year 2000. So the last 25 years are the best underground hip-hop albums in my opinion, but we're going to go year by year. There's amazing albums on this list, and it's a topic that's a little less discussed. My opinion is obviously not the best opinion or the only opinion, so feel free to disagree, but it is cool to talk about kind of these albums that are a little less represented in conversations. There's some of these albums you're going to be very familiar with that are well known. Some of these are going to be a little bit more niche. So I hope you enjoy the list. One of the problems with discussing the top rap albums or the top underground hip hop albums of all time is the definition of what is underground. This is not a list of the top independent hip hop albums of all time. That would be a little different. I did try to stay away from artists who have put out on majors in general, but there are a few that made it through. There is some keys to discussing what is underground and what isn't. I think underground is a lot about presentation. It's a lot about experimentation, and if it's kind of bucking the mainstream trends. So where does it fall in the mainstream landscape? How is it presented? Is there some kind of experimentation in the production or the structure or the way it's presented? Is there some kind of counterculture message in the messaging? Is there something experimental about the lyrics? Or something kind of deeper about the lyrics? Does it go against what's kind of being presented in the mainstream in some way? So underground, there's a lot of wonderful underground hip-hop albums. A lot of underground has been more and more mainstream, so it does make the line a little blurry as to what is underground and what isn't. So I'm going to discuss specifically some of the groups that I did not put in underground or consider as underground. Some people may disagree with these, but groups I did not consider underground are The Roots, Common, Yasin Bey / Mos Def. I also didn't consider any of the Freddie Gibbs collaborations as underground, and I only considered Run the Jewels 1 as underground. It's kind of tricky with Run the Jewels. They've become very popular and very visible, but when that first album released, no one really knew what it was going to be like. No one knew how explosive the combination of LP and Killer Mike was going to be and how much they were going to kind of take the world by storm. That first album did get some promo, but it was very much they were an unknown quantity until that first Run the Jewels album came out. So I considered Run the Jewels 1, but not 2, 3, and 4. Another tricky one is Lupe Fiasco. I didn't really consider him. I consider his first album his best album, and that's when he released on a major and got a lot of press and attention. So I didn't really consider him underground, even though later he did shift out. He divorced from his label, and he did become more underground as his career went on. I don't know. I don't know if any of his other albums, to be honest with you, would beat out any of the albums that are on the list. So I didn't really consider him, and I wasn't really too worried about it. People that I did consider underground, well, the first one is the big one, MF Doom. He's basically the godfather of underground, if you want to consider him that. I mean, there's always been underground before him, but MF Doom was really the one who made his technicality and his artistry such an important part of his music, and it really kind of shined a light on the underground, and it really gave birth to a million underground hip-hop artists after himself. So you got to consider MF Doom, even though he is more popular than basically all the other rappers that I had mentioned previously. He's hugely popular, but I still think he deserves a place as an underground artist. 3 more artists that have released on majors at times. They haven't only exclusively released on majors, but they have released on majors at times, so therefore are not independent or haven't always been independent artists. But I still consider underground because of their experimentation, their willingness to buck the norms, and basically their willingness to not pursue popularity just as an ends to itself. I would say JPEGMAFIA, Danny Brown, and Death Grips were considered underground, even though they have released on majors previously. So that's kind of a rundown of my list. Again, we're going over the top, 2000 or the top 25 underground hip hop albums of the last 25 years, based off a year. Just because of the structure of this, there may be some years where there was 3 albums that were amazing and deserved a spot on the list, but they couldn't make it because of the structure. And then there's other albums that were weaker, or other years where it was kind of a weaker group of choices, and you wish you could move some of those years that are more packed move some of those selections to some of those other years. But that's not the way this was going to be structured. But I think hip hop is an amazing genre because it really lends itself to experimentation. There's so much you can do with it. There's so many genre combinations. So it's led to some amazing music when you really can experiment and open up kind of the boundaries of hip hop. And I really appreciate underground hip hop and all the different ways it can sound, all the different ways it can be, all the different topics that can be discussed. But enough yapping out of me, and please enjoy this video where I talk about the best underground hip hop albums of the last 25 years. All right, so here we are, the top 25 underground hip hop albums of the last 25 years. This is going to be a fun list. I really enjoy talking about some of these albums. Again, some of these are going to be really popular and well known. Some of them are going to be a little more obscure. I hope you guys enjoy the list. I enjoyed us talking about giving a little shine to albums that may have not have gotten their proper due or glory. To start off the list, we're going to go with Deltron 3030. Obviously, this is not a super hidden album, but it's an amazing one. The collaboration of Del the Funky Homo Sapien and Dan the Automator as a producer. They created one of the most kind of futuristic sounding albums of all time. It's very post-apocalyptic sounding. There's a lot of interesting the vibes that are just created. It kind of, you feel like you're in the wasteland in Fallout or something. It's very stark. And Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Deltron Zero, as he calls himself throughout the album, just paints this picture of a post-apocalyptic world. The downfall is a lot of what we expect. Capitalism and the corporate machine kind of chewed up the universe, and the heroes that are left to save it is Deltron 3030, Deltron Zero. He's kind of leading us through the apocalypse, giving us as he's being a tour guide. And again, Dan the Automator, his production on this is amazing. It sounds futuristic, but it also sounds lo-fi. It sounds very post-apocalyptic if you kind of threw in a splash of space dust in there. So one of my favorite hip hop albums of all time. I could listen to this thing a million times. It's just straight fire. And I hope if you haven't heard it, you need to listen to it because, it's just so innovative and ahead of its time. Next up is The Cold Vein by Cannibal. Again, this album is amazing. Vasair and Vortal Mega, they really, again, you really get this kind of wintry, stark, very East Coast vibe coming through this project. LP produced this thing. It sounds cold. It's called The Cold Vein. And it sounds chilling. It sounds cold. The subject matter, it ranges. It can get, can be bleak, but it's just such a well put together album. It's definitely considered one of the formative albums of underground hip hop. This thing will be referenced constantly. It really kind of, this beginning underground phase, or there was underground hip hop obviously before any of these albums came out. But this is really where kind of this idea of art rap really kind of curated sounds, very much concept albums became popular, and The Cold Vein does such a good job of creating a vibe and a mood throughout it. Next up is Blazing Arrow by Black Alicious, Gift of Gab, and Chief XL. The Black Alicious, Gift of Gab is one of my favorite rappers of all time. The vibes are immaculate. There's not too much on this list that's going to be a quote unquote the positive tip. But Gift of Gab does a really good job of providing a lot of hope, a lot of positivity in his messaging. There's definitely a sense of intergalactic travel in here. Chief XL does a great job of just creating really banging beats, throws in some amazing samples. Really, a lot of these, there's not any skips on this album as far as I consider. Really, the whole thing is a tight project, and every album has movement and is up tempo. It's a great car listen. It's a great vibes listen if you're feeling down. You know, a lot of underground hip hop can be heavy, and this project is nothing heavy, nothing heavy about it. Black GIF of Gab does share a lot of personal things in this album, but you know, it's an uplifting experience from beginning to end. Next up, we have our first MF Doom entrance on the list, except he's not MF Doom in this album. He's King Ghidorah, and he produced basically this whole thing, a vastly underrated project. Although I don't think it's very underrated anymore. I think people are well aware of this album at this point. But he does a great job of. There's not too much variance of between the MF Doom character and the King Ghidorah character. The best way I could describe it is it's one of perspective. The King Ghidorah character, or at least it's kind of looking at villainous activity and kind of the downfall of society from a third-person view, while MF Doom seems to put himself as a much more central figure. This is more of an observational kind of perspective, a third-person perspective, and it's just amazing. It's so well produced. You know, MF Doom never slacks in his technicality, his wordplay, his playing with different vibes, playing with different tempos, playing with different flows, and it's just an amazing album. And it's just even more amazing because MF Doom produced so much of it, and it really stands out as a project, as most of MF Doom's projects do. When you listen to them, they just seem to be a cut above what is out there. It's you know, it's just truly premium underground hip hop. Next up is Mad Villainy. I mean, this is one of the best hip hop albums of all time. Certainly one of the best underground hip hop albums of all time, but certainly even one of the best hip hop albums of all time. The combination of Madlib and MF Doom, I mean, it's amazing. I think that this album does a lot to focus Doom. You know, Doom is an amazing artist, but sometimes his projects can meander, and sometimes he's not as tight as you would necessarily want him to be, or as focused on his messaging. For what this particular combination between Doom and Madlib, you have Doom at his most focus, and plus Madlib's ability to create hooks and stuff like that really plays into well with this MF Doom. MF Doom is not bad at creating hooks. He has plenty of songs with some dope hooks and some dope choruses, but sometimes he just forgets to seem to put them into his songs. I think Madlib forces Doom to stay on some song structures, does basics, and MF Doom is just such an amazing artist that he performs exceptionally throughout it. His technical rapping is amazing. Madlib's production is amazing. Again, one of the best hip hop albums of all time. I don't think I'm sharing this album with, you know, anybody for the first time. However you want to pronounce it, Food also came out, another Doom project. You got to think of that. Mad Villainy and Food came out in the same year, which is completely bonkers. I don't like Food as much as a lot of other people do. It's not. I know it's just considered also. People would consider it on the same level of Mad Villainy. I think Mad Villainy is a clear cut above, but that also came out. This shows how much of a terror MF Doom was at this time, just releasing so many projects, so many high quality projects. You know, he couldn't be stopped. I want to give a shout out to one of my favorite underground hip hop albums of all time. I am not considering this on the list, unfortunately, because it came out in the same year as Mad Villainy, which is basically an impossible task. If this came out in any other year, maybe. I haven't really waited every single year, but almost every other year from the year 2000 on to 2025, this would have been my favorite. Rob Sonic's Delicatessen. It is dope. The production is dope. Rob Sonic. I mean, one of the things you could say about Rob Sonic is that his lyrics may not get the most deep and introspective, but his flows are amazing. The beats on this album are crazy. Rob Sonic has made many projects. I don't think he ever quite touched the perfection that is this album. There's so many kind of lush synth passages that he loops in these songs, and it just has such a unique sound. I still don't think even his other work, he has some songs on some of his other projects that sound similar, but I literally can't think of another project that sounds this good. And it is a certified no skip album. There is not one song that I skip on this album when I listen to it. It is amazing. top to bottom. It sounds so unique. It is such a vibe. I give Rob Sonic his props. Unfortunately, it came out as the same year as Mad Villainy, so it's not really even a competition. But almost any other year, I would consider this my favorite underground hip hop album of all time. This is my only honorable mention on the list, by the way. Everyone else fights on their own merits, but I had to give a special shout out to Telecontestant. Next up, we got Beauty and the Beat by Edon. This album is well known just because of the experimentation and production. This is really psychedelic hip hop. I'm sure, again, I'm not like a hip hop historian. I don't teach a class on hip hop. But I know there's obviously other psychedelic hip hop albums that came out. I mean, The Far Side, I guess, came out 10 years before this. And, it was psychedelic at points. But Edon really turns up psychedelic hip hop to its highest level. The way he loops in these soul samples and just fades in and out of reverb and filters and distortion, and it's just amazing. And it sounds like a trip. It sounds like an acid trip. And Edon, this album is mostly known for its production, as well it should be. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to trace the direct lineage to like Travis Scott or something with like psychedelic hip hop, but this album really broke some barriers as to how hip hop could sound, how many influences you could pack into your music. And Edon doesn't get enough props for his rapping on this album. He is also a very competent rapper as well. Is he the best rapper ever? No, but the fact that he produced this himself and raps over it and sounds good, you got to give it its props. And if you have not heard this is maybe one that may be considered more obscure to some people. My first one that is maybe not well known. I go open this thing up and listen to it. It is sick. I mean, you'll be blown away by just what he does within the production in this album. Next up is Momega by Mr. Lif. This is an album that is not on streaming, so there is a full version of it on YouTube. I would highly suggest you listen to it. Another album that's produced by LP. If you want to have a good shot at making it on this list, just have LP produce your album. You're going to be in pretty good shape. Mr. Lif is a great artist. He's a great technical rapper. His flows are solid. He also includes a lot of political conversations in his music. He's willing to tackle hard issues as, systemic racism, capitalist structures, kind of the things, that we talk about. LP's LP's production on this album isn't as experimental as it is on some of the other ones on this list. It's kind of more standard hip hop production, but he does have LP's flourishes. It is distinct, and it's top notch, as everything that LP produces is. And Mr. Lif sounds great over all these tracks. Again, you can't find it on streaming, so this is probably more obscure to most people, but I highly suggest you give it a listen, especially if you like kind of more this is very backpacky backpack rap, very educated, willing to tackle big subjects, use big words. This is very backpacky rap, but it's amazing, and I would definitely recommend pulling it up on YouTube because you can't find it anywhere else. Next up is The Undisputed Truth by Brother Ali. This is probably going to be one of my first controversials because there's another one that came out in 2007 that a lot of people would just automatically put here. Below the Heavens by Blue in Exile. I don't like that album. I know that people are probably crapping themselves right now for me to say that. I don't want to spend too much time because I want to give Brother Ali his flowers. But the Blue in Exile album, for whatever reason, it sounds like LA rap trying to be East Coast. It really sounds like it's really trying to be like we're LA rap, but we're doing it boom-bap style. It's not a bad album, but certainly I don't think it's this kind of memorialized, amazing Mount Rushmore underground hip hop album that a lot of people consider it. I am sorry to say that. Now to Brother Ali and the Undisputed Truth. This album, I have mixed feelings about this album. It's a great album. I've listened to this album a lot because I used to own it back when we used to listen to CDs. When it came out, I got it on CD, and I listened to it a lot. Brother Ali is a very good rapper. He's really willing to open up about his feelings about things. He's really willing to get personal on his records. It's produced by Ant's Production, and it's great on this thing too. It can be a little corny at times, a little over the top. Some of the kind of idea that, the world is against him, kind of this kind of vibe that Brother Ali puts out in this album. You know, it can get a little old, but he's such a good rapper. The album's so well produced, and again, he's so willing to get into kind of his inner turmoils, how he feels about the world. It's a very personal album, but it also has plenty of hype bangers in it too. It's a very well balanced album. I think 2007, if I'm going to be honest, and people are probably going to lose their minds because they can think of 1,000 albums from 2007 that are great. And I think this is why I picked this one, because I think it is great. But it's a little bit of a weaker year. But Brother Ali, Undisputed Truth, it's a good album. Definitely give it a listen. Next up is LZ, The Preface. This is very much back to the basics kind of hip hop album. It's really about technicality with this album. LZ is a lyrical master, he is a flow master, he is a wordsmith, and he basically puts all of his technical ability on display in this album. The production is very standard, but excellently produced. You know, it's very much a boom bap album. But LZ's technicality is really on display. If you really want to hear a great technician at work, something that you may not have come across before, put LZ The Preface on, and it'll blow your mind, man. He is truly a very skilled rapper from Detroit, and it's definitely worth your time to give it a listen. 2009, our last MF Doom entrance on this list. The Born Like This is a very interesting MF Doom album. It is kind of, a lot of people consider it the most MF Doom album since some of his 90s stuff. And I do understand that. He's very much inhabiting his villain arc in this album. He's fully back in his MF Doom mode. It's a very interesting album because it seems very coherent at points because it's so MF Doom coded, but it also kind of meanders. It's not, the production isn't very focused, the sound isn't very coherent, but that's kind of like except for some of his collabs with producers, that's kind of an MF Doom project. He's kind of all over the place, but the thing you're never going to lose on an MF Doom album is amazing writing, amazing flows, amazing delivery, just this top tier rapping, and that's what you get from every MF Doom album. And the highlights on this album are some of the best MF Doom highlights in his entire catalog. Again, it's a really interesting album. It's long and it's kind of varied, and there's I think there's a few songs on here that he doesn't even rap on, that he just gives to other people. But it is a great album because it's an MF Doom album, and pretty much everything he's made is great. Even though I have my own personal hierarchy, this is kind of the last one, and it's an amazing project. All right, now we have Rock Marciano, Markberg. A lot of people, Marciano. Anyways, amazing project. Obviously, this really started the boom bap revival. Without this album, there's probably no Griselda. It really kind of went back to the basics with hip hop. It's a throwback when the throwback wasn't really happening. Rap was getting more and more mainstream at this point. The sound was getting, very more. You're just starting to, very much the kind of commercialization of hip hop had taken full root by 2010, and Rock Marciano, this Markberg really takes it back to its roots. Simple. But good, premium beats. Rock really keeps his subject matter into kind of the very East Coast style. A lot of braggadocio, a lot of coke rap, a lot of gangster rap, or a lot of mafioso rap. As I guess if it's LA, it's gangster rap. If it's East Coast, it's mafioso rap. I don't know if that's the true distinction or not, but it's very much a standard hip hop album that feels like it could have been made in the early 90s, but it's just very premium. It's very well done and really leads to the boom bap revival. The Griselda crew, who else am I trying to think of who kind of comes out of that vein? Joey Badass, etc. All right, so now we're getting back into experimentation with Shabazz Palaces. Everyone talks about this album. This is kind of one of those formative underground hip hop albums. It's an amazing album. It very much has a lot of themes of race, economic disparity, and it's very much an album that's unapologetically in your face, off the cuff, from the heart. Again, talking a lot about kind of social and racial issues, and it isn't really concerned as to what people of my complexion think about racial issues. But it's so well done, and the experimentation is really amazing. As far as the production goes, is really amazing on here too. It's very minimalist. It's very stark. It's very artistic. You know, we're starting to get into that spoken word form at times, where later the mantle that Ka inhabits. You may see more from him later. But it's such a well done album. It's such an amazing listen. It's such a thought provoking listen. And obviously, I think most underground hip hop fans are well familiar with it. But if not, this is considered like one of the, pillars of underground hip hop, and definitely worth a listen. Next up is the Anthony Fantano special. We got The Money Store. Again, experimentation, industrial hip hop. This is really where industrial hip hop really gets some major visibility. The sounds in here are so unconventional. A lot of hip hop fans would listen to some parts of this, and they would say, consider it unlistenable. MC Ride's kind of aggressive and nonstop flow. But again, this is by the Death Grips, I guess, in case you didn't know. But MC Ride's in your face, kind of unapologetic flow. The kind of ambiguous nature of the lyrics leaves a lot of things open to interpretation, a lot of messaging open to interpretation. But if you're not sure what MC Ride is talking about all the time, one thing you do know about MC Ride during most of this is he's fucking pissed off. So that definitely comes across, whether or not the lyrics are easy to parse or not. And the production is just insane. It's bonkers. I mean, some of this stuff, a lot of people consider unlistenable. Again, it's kind of funny where a lot of these albums fall, because this is not a no skip album for me. There's several songs on here that are just too harsh for me, but you got to give props to the experimentation, the forward progress, the pushing of boundaries, just the pure energy that's came into making this project. It's groundbreaking. You have to listen to it all the way through at least once, and then the next couple times you listen to it, you can pick your favorites. There's definitely things on here that are very, are more mainstream, and there's things that aren't. But it's a great album. Next up, we got Run the Jewels 1. I kind of gave you a hint in the intro that this album would be involved. Again, the way that Run the Jewels hit the scene, it kind of took everybody by storm. People weren't ready for how powerful the combination of Killer Mike and LP could be. And when they hit it, they really changed. They basically, the idea that an underground hip hop album could still be all bangers. And LP, he just went nuts with the production. He really wanted to create an album that is going to get your head bobbing. Killer Mike's sound and flow is just ridiculous. I mean, Killer Mike has such a distinct voice. His southern draw combined with his deep baritone, he does such a mic command and presence. And LP really just turns the experimentation of his production up to 10. As Run the Jewels go on, LP's production gets more futuristic, more spacey. But this album, he was really creating some boom-bap bangers. And there's still some experimentation, obviously, but it's just such an amazing album. Obviously, you could see why Run the Jewels became, one of a huge group, because this album kicks ass. All right, clipping. This is an interesting album. You got to give it props again for this experimentation and the sound of this album. It sounds just so quality, and this is again the idea of there's very different ways to experiment with hip hop and hip hop production. The production on this album for the most part is very minimalistic. There's not a lot going on, but it's still so experimental. A lot of the cadences are unorthodox. They break from 4/4 on a regular basis. A lot of the sounds you just wouldn't hear anywhere else. The pacing, Davey Diggs is really hitting a lot of these unorthodox beats. He's hitting them hard. This is also not a no skip album for me, but it is an album that I give mad props to for being experimental and pushing the genre forward. You can see between Death Grips and clipping, you're really seeing hip hop and rap acts getting not afraid to include influences from other genres to really experiment with their sounds and what hip hop can sound like. And it's a great album. Obviously, this is another one that's considered very, one of those very much record store head kind of albums, pitchfork pilled albums. But it's definitely worth a listen just to hear how experimental it gets. Now, this is a personal favorite of mine. This is a no skip album for me. This is maybe the most cinematic album that I think exists. I know people would push back on that. I know that, there's, the Kendrick albums, Good Kid, Mad City, and To Pimp a Butterfly, amongst numerous other, you could go back to Slick Rick. For cinematic albums, this album really plays like a movie. It's pretty funny because it plays like a 1940s gangster film, but it has very modern sensibilities. Jeremiah J raps over this amazingly. I don't know why this guy doesn't get talked about more as a great rapper, but he is on point this entire record. And the production from L Orange is amazing. La Orange? It's sick. He does the sample pulls, the sample flips, just how cinematic this thing sounds. Really transports you to another time, another place. You're in a movie. It is so well done. No skip album for sure. Please listen to it. This thing is a certified classic in my opinion. And it really kind of goes to show just how when I guess an artist really commits to a particular thing, how well it can be executed. It's a great album. Go listen to it. Again, here's another greatly cinematic album that came out the year after, Atrocity Exhibition by Danny Brown. This one, again, this is an auxiliary of a major label. Death Grips, also was off a major. So this is kind of where that thing is Danny Brown underground. I'll give it to him on this one, especially because Atrocity Exhibition. This is also a no skip album as far as I'm concerned. From beginning to end, you can listen to this album. It transports you to another time and place. I mean, you've heard it a million times. This is a very well known album, but this is basically a bad drug trip put to music. Basically, just Danny Brown going down a spiral. But it's so well done. Danny Brown's rapping on this is amazing. Their production is amazing. It's truly, you have to listen to it all the way through at least once to really get the whole scope. There's a lot of, one thing that I didn't want to talk about, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, is there's a lot of different sounds in this album. But it's so coherent. It's so well put together, but without being samey. You got to give mad props to Danny on that and his producers because they really create a coherent album without it being just one note. And I got to give it to him. It's an amazing album. Maybe one of my top 50 albums of all time. Probably one of my top 10 hip hop albums of all time. Next up, we got Rome by Arm & Hammer with Billy Woods and Elucid. This is an amazing project. Very much up my alley, a kind of allegory about the downfall of Rome and the downfall of modern capitalism and the downfall of empire. Really kind of all the things that seem so relevant today as they were in 2017. And it's just well produced. There's not really, it's not, exceptional in a lot of the production, but just the subject matter, just the willingness to get in your face about, uncomfortable subjects, about how modern society is structured and how that mirrors empires of old. Plus, it's a good album. You can listen to it all the way through. There's no skips on this thing, and it's just top notch. And the fact that there still is revolutionary threads within hip hop, being willing to talk about social justice and whatnot. And Rome is a great example of that. Billy Woods is great, this is one of those classic underground hip hop albums that I think anyone could appreciate. Some of this stuff, when it gets into the more experimental stuff, that's probably not for everyone's ears. But this is one I think is pretty much everyone can handle it, and it's very well done. Next up, we got Room 25 by Noname. Jazz rap is back with this one. He's channeling Bahamadia. It's such a vibey album. Such a great album to listen to. While the subject matter isn't always uplifting, just the way the kind of the jazzy production, it never the vibes are immaculate, even when the subject matter isn't necessarily always the most comfortable. Noname is obviously not afraid to be in your face, to be controversial, to speak her mind. But she's, first of all, obviously a very technically gifted rapper, but just the combination of her flows and her voice over these kind of jazz beats, especially these kind of jazz rap beats that sound so lush that you just don't hear as much, especially weren't hearing as much as 2018. It's just such a refreshing album because it's just very unique for its place and time, and it definitely deserves its props. Next up, we have Hiding Places by Billy Woods and Kenny Siegel. This is an amazing album. This is, again, one of those that's considered a classic, and with good reason. You want to talk about vibes, here's where the vibes get real spooky. Obviously, Billy Woods continues to play on this with Gollywog. I think this album is much better than Gollywog, just because I think that Kenny Siegel's production... this album is really spooky without seeming to try really hard at being spooky. The production is just cryptic and plotting with a lot of reverb and kind of horror sounds, but it doesn't go over the top with it. It just creates a real spooky vibe. Like some of the most scary horror movies are the ones that just create a vibe, and this is very much a spooky vibe. Billy Woods obviously loves a spooky vibe. He's very good on this. He raps very well on this album, and I think, like I said, this is kind of like the precursor to Gollywog, and I think it's kind of better because I think Gollywog kind of really tries too hard at points, while this album just naturally is what that album tries. And I mean, if you're looking for spooky vibes, looking for an album to play in October, this is the one for you. Descendants of Cain by Ka. This album is amazing. Must be listened to. Ka, I don't have any other Ka on this thing. I spoil it for the future, but for the rest of this countdown. But I mean, Ka is this is his best album in my opinion. He really turns the things that make Ka special up to 10. The fact that, the production gets even starker, he gets more personal, more introspective. He's willing to let his albums and his songs breathe. It kind of adds to this kind of spoken word poetry, vibe that his album's obviously very well known. That is vibes that his album has. But I just think this is like the perfect Ka album. You must listen to it. It's really, the vibe is one that's not necessarily positive, but it really touches your heart, man. At points, I got to give props to the Noname album too, and this one. There's really some points that are very personal and definitely will pull at the heartstrings and make you feel things. And that's definitely the vibe that Ka is going for. It may not be the most uplifting feeling, but it's definitely good. If you're feeling, you want to feel that someone else is feeling your pain. This is an album to listen to. Again, this is like the perfect Ka album, just because it's all the things that make Ka, but just turned up to a perfect recipe. Next up is LP by JPEGMAFIA. Obviously, Peggy has a lot of albums. He definitely is a controversial figure in hip hop. But one thing I have to give Peggy credit for, I didn't know if because I'm not a huge, I like a lot of his music. I actually like one of his other albums better than this one, but it lost to another album. Without getting too in the weeds, Peggy's production, I don't know how he does what he does. I'm a music producer. I'm an amateur music producer. His music sounds so distinct and unique. How he gets such clarity out of such madness is inexplicable to me. I know a lot of times he uses kind of older recording stuff outside of a DAW, and I don't know how much that lends to his sounds, but the dude is a master producer. I mean, literally, it sounds so clean, but so dirty at the same time. I don't know how he does it. This album is great. This album is probably more where I like Peggy the most, where probably a lot of people would call me not a true fan, because I like him the most when he's, trying to sound a little more commercial. I know that's not true with all of his music, but when he makes it a little more mainstream, that's kind of when I like him at the best. I know he would probably flip me the middle finger, and all of his fans would, for that take, but that's my personal opinion. And this is kind of his most mainstream sounding album. But there's still a lot of weirdness on here, a lot of experimentation with production. Peggy does not get enough props for his rapping. He's a good rapper. A lot of it is braggadocio. He does a lot of braggadocio rapping. He's not afraid to touch social topics either. The braggadocio stuff, it kind of gets annoying after a while. But the album doesn't sound like anything else. Peggy has truly kind of trademarked his own lane in hip hop, and he deserves props for this. And this is one of my favorite albums from him. It's very clean, it's very polished, while still keeping that chaos and that experimentation that Peggy's known for. So here's kind of probably my most underground of all my selections on this list. Wolves Don't Eat with Shepherds by Knowledge the Pirate and Big Ghost Production. I could have very easily put the Elephant Man's Bones on here and called it a day. I like Alchemist and I like his production. It just doesn't stand out enough to me for it to win any best of anythings. It's very competent. It's very well done. The drumless stuff is, obviously, kind of where hip hop has been going recently, is kind of more and more drumless production, which kind of was Alchemist's kind of innovation. But anyways, enough talking about an album that isn't this album. This album is amazing. It's very much kind of a simple throwback album. One, in subject matter, it's very much gangster mafioso rap, but it's very well done, and there is introspection in here. Knowledge the Pirate is not afraid to, think more deeply about the circumstances that, cause his, gangster story, and cause the environmental conditions around him. But it's very well done gangster rap. It's very well done mafioso rap, like I said, because of its willingness to do some introspection. And the production on here is great. It's very much kind of throwbacky in so much that Big Ghost finds these killer soul samples, Motown samples, isolates them, and kind of builds songs around these killer samples. It's a very old school way, I think, of doing rap. Finding these samples that you like, kind of manipulating them, and this creating a whole song around a single sample. It's so well done. It sounds great. This is a no-skip album to me, too. I can listen to this thing top to bottom. It's not a very well-known album, at least it certainly has low plays on Spotify. I don't know. It may have huge fan base on the East Coast. I'm not an East Coast person, so I wouldn't know. But I really think this album deserves a ton of recognition. It kind of blows my mind that it's not more popular. It's so well done. The rapping's great. The production's great. It's very much kind of a throwback album. And I think it deserves a lot of credit and a lot of ears. So go listen to it. All right, here we go. Scaring the Hose. This is kind of a controversial pick, even for myself. It's hard to pick it, and it's hard not to pick it, because it's so unhinged. This whole album is a mess, and it's a mess in a great way. It is this complete experimentation, complete noise, but it's amazing. It's so well done. It's kind of just like Peggy deciding to turn his production styles up to max. I know he produced all of this entire thing on an old drum machine, which is just wild to me because he does so much with the production. He said in interviews after that he was never going to touch that machine again because it was such a pain in the ass to produce a whole album on it. But it sounds so unique, so distinct. So many samples on top of samples on top of samples. This is kind of the opposite of the experimentation that you would say clipping does, or even going back farther, Shabazz Palaces. This is maximalist music. Everything all at once. Danny Brown. This is at parts on this album you feel like JPEGMAFIA or Peggy is trying to
see if he could break Danny Brown's ability to rap on anything. But Danny Brown literally can rap on anything. He is one of the greatest rappers of all time just because of his ability to seemingly rap on any tempo and any configuration, any wild ass shit. Danny can rap on it. It's amazing. The funny thing, the reason I say it's kind of contentious is this is definitely not a no skip album for me. I can't listen to a lot of the songs on this album more than once. I mean, obviously I could sit and listen to it. It's not so bad that I'm like, oh, my ears, I can't listen to it. But it's not everything on this album is a good listening experience, and it's not meant to be. But there are some true bangers on this album too. Really a great song or a great album that everyone needs to listen to just for how buck wild it is, how unhinged it is, and how great the synergy between Peggy and Danny is. Now we go to Rich Ass Haitian by Mac Homie. This album is amazing. A lot of people, Pray for Haiti is another great Mac Homie album. It is not on here. I think this album is better. A lot of people consider, Pray for Haiti the classic, and this the sequel. But I think this album kind of takes that and expands on it, just because I think there's a lot more inclusion of like world sounds on here. There's a lot more experimentation in the production. Mac Homie still delivers great social critiques and great rapping in general. There's several great features on here too. I just think that the production is a lot more experimental. Again, he's pulling a lot more. The Pray for Haiti has world sounds on it, but this thing pulls even more from that bag, combining things, experimenting on things. Mac Homie is one of a great underground hip hop rapper. It deserves all the props he gets, despite saying so elusive and mysterious. He's a great rapper. It's a great project. Definitely worth a listen all the way through. And yeah. And now we end on 2025. 25 years of great underground hip hop music. And I think 2025 seemed to be the year of the old heads, right? You had De La Soul come back, Nas releasing an album with DJ Premier. And then you had Clips taking over the world with like God Sort 'Em Out. And I'm going to give my underground nod too to another old head, Evidence of Dilated Peoples and many solo projects. Truly a mainstay in underground, mid-ground. I don't know. The Dilated Peoples got some eyeballs on them. But this album does not give it enough props. It sounds immaculate. Evidence is in his true producer bag. He's taking a lot of influences, I think, from like The Alchemist. But I would hate to utter the words that he does it better. But there's a lot of like drumless or light drum production on here. A lot of really classy sample flips, but it is very a minimalist album. The tracks are pretty sparse, leaving lots of room for Evidence to rap. And Evidence, it has never sound better through Dilated Peoples or his solo projects, in my opinion. He sounds, first of all, his technicality seems to improve all the time. I know he's great, but I honestly think he's may not have been the most technical rapper. He's always had a great voice and a great knack for flow, but he seems to have gotten more technically skilled as he's gotten older, and does really introspective rhymes or really introspective songs, really thought-provoking. No skip album, in my opinion. You can listen to this thing front to back. It is a vibe. Again, it's a chill vibe. You're not getting a ton of up-tempo bangers on here, but I feel like it's just really a classy effort, and it's really a pleasing effort. It's one of those albums that you can just listen to and vibe to, and I think Evidence is just getting better. It's like fine wine, getting better with age. That's the cliche metaphor. But I really do think that like 2025, for whatever reason, was the year of the old heads. And I'm sorry, Evidence, to call you an old head. You're not an old head. The 50 is the new 60, or 60 is the new 50, or whatever. Anyways, it's a great album. Must listen to it. And again, so many of these albums are amazing. Please go listen to them all. I'm sure there's some disagreement in some of these, but that just leaves room for discussion.
Well, I hope you enjoyed. That's my list of the top 25 hip-hop underground albums of the last 25 years. Please subscribe and like and comment. I'm trying to grow a channel. I know it's very challenging because the marketplace is very saturated with YouTube creators. So, I mean, anything, any interaction you can give me to help propel this in any sort of algorithm would be helpful. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Again, my next two videos are going to be my top 60 rappers of all time. Those are going to be based off of my opinion, and they should be bangers. I hope you watch them. Bye.